Hello, everyone. I believe we are live. Welcome to another episode of the live chat. It is so good to be here. I hope you can all see me and hear me loud and clear. It is so good to be back. As always, the live chat, one of the best parts of my week, and I hope one of the best parts of your week as well. So, if anyone is new here, if you've never been part of the chat before, the way this works, you drop those comments, you drop those questions on the side into the chat, and we break down all the biggest gaming news, all of the biggest sales topics for the gaming industry, and really just whatever you want to talk about. The focus is primarily, of course, on the video game industry, but if you want to chat about something else, I try to cover as much as possible. So thanks everyone for showing up and for being here. One quick thing right off of the top. I normally don't do this. I normally save my subscribe spiel until the very end of the video. But really quick, if you are not subscribed to this channel, I'm going to humbly ask you to please subscribe because the channel is close to 2,000. We are very, very close to 2,000 subscribers now on the YouTube. So that is really exciting. I'm glad to finally be close to that milestone. We're only a little over 100 subscribers away from hitting 2K. So if you're not subscribed here yet, please hit that subscribe button. All right, so as always, let's go over a few topics right off of the top that we can break down and that we can talk about before we jump into your comments and questions. First of all, we are seeing Microsoft perform incredibly strong on Steam lately. They've been having a ton of momentum with their projects on Steam, from Grounded being a kind of surprise success, I think. I think Grounded is performing much, much better than myself and many anticipated. So good things there for Grounded. Flight Simulator, early pre-orders are looking amazing on Steam. It jumped up all the way to #1 on Steam bestsellers list with just pre-orders. The game's not even out, so pre-orders took it to #1. We've had Sea of Thieves continue to have legs. We have Halo Master Chief Collection. So really just Microsoft having a ton of success on Steam. So I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of questions about that. There's a whole bunch of other rumors floating around in regards to Microsoft. Is Xbox Live Gold going away? We also have rumors that Halo Infinite's multiplayer is going to be free to play. So a whole bunch of stuff probably around that as well. We also have Sony and Nintendo's fiscal quarter results coming out next week. That's right. Next week is going to be a really big week for those of us that like sales. We're going to have a ton of updates from Sony and Nintendo in regards to the PlayStation and Nintendo business. And of course, so much more. I already see tons of questions flooding on the side. So that's just a few of the topics we can talk about. But if there's anything else you want to chat about or break down, drop it over into the side. I'm going to jump in and start taking a look because, like I said, we already have a whole bunch of stuff dropping in. Thanks, everyone who has joined into the chat. Forzathon saying, hi, Benji, couldn't hang out in the last live chat because you were celebrating your birthday. Well, congrats, Forzathon. Congrats. This week was also my daughter's second birthday. So lots of birthdays going around, and my birthday is next month. So if we can hit 2,000 subscribers on the channel, that would be an awesome happy birthday present to Benji. My birthday's in August, so hopefully, fingers crossed, by the time we hit my birthday, we can hit that 2K. All right, and then here's a question from Forzathon. Looking at other Xbox Game Studio titles, how do you think Battletoads will do in Game Pass in Steam? Also, Grounded seems to be doing great for Xbox. So dual part question here. First of all, Battletoads, I'm not 100% sure what to think about Battletoads. I've seen mixed things in terms of the reception from people that played it at E3, but that was quite a while ago, right? That was, I believe, the last public hands-on showing of that game was at E3 last year, if I remember right. So that was a year ago. That's a lot of time for the game to change pretty drastically. So I wouldn't read too much into quality yet until the game drops. Forzathon, my hunch here is Battletoads is the type of game that is going to do well on Game Pass, maybe not a big seller in terms of standalone units. Maybe if it's a surprisingly good game, like really, really good, it might sell well. But my hunch, Forzathon, just a hunch, because this is a smaller scoped title. It's not one of those big giant AAA games, right? It's kind of a smaller project. I have a feeling that this is going to be one of those more Game Pass standouts than it is hardcore sales standouts. I'd be surprised, for example, if you see this game kind of like light up the charts on Steam. I haven't looked yet. I think it went up for pre-order on Steam, so I haven't seen if it's jumping up the charts on there or not yet, but my hunch for Forzathon is Battletoads is going to be more of a Game Pass type of thing. As far as Grounded, yeah, this is surprising. I'll be honest with you. I did not expect Grounded to perform at the level that it appears it is performing at. For those that haven't dug into the data yet, for example, on Twitch, for several days, it was very high view counts on Twitch. In fact, at one point, it was over 250,000 concurrent viewers, if I recall correctly, on launch day on Twitch. That's big. That's a big number, 250K. And then I remember the next day it was up into like the 80,000s. It also was #1 selling game on Steam for multiple days. So not even just its launch day, but I believe the second day at one point, it was also #1 seller. So yeah, Grounded doing much better than I expected personally. That survival kind of genre is big, right? We've seen a ton of games in that genre do super, super well, but I just didn't feel like a ton of momentum headed into Grounded, right? It kind of felt like one of those that was kind of by the wayside. Some people were excited for it, but it wasn't one of those things, for example, that was like lighting up YouTube trailer charts or just one of those things you can kind of see the success coming from a mile away. So yeah, great result for Grounded, especially because this was a very small project for Obsidian. It started development with only around 14 people. I'm sure once they went into like the polishing and finishing stage, I'm sure they had more people on, this game than 14. They probably brought in a few more once they were close to launch, but for a big part of this project's development, it was a pretty small team over at Obsidian making it, right? They had a group of people working on the Outer Worlds. They had people working on Avowed, their upcoming next-gen RPG. So they had kind of really two really big teams working on other stuff, and this was more of like a passion side project. So I think the return on investment on Grounded is going to be huge. Maybe Grounded's not going to be, a 10 million seller or something like that. I mean, who knows? We're very, very early days. Some of these survival games take off, so maybe one day it does get there. But let's say even if it doesn't, let's say it's not some 10 million selling game, the return on investment is going to be very big. This couldn't have cost super expensive to make when you're talking a team of 14 doing most of the development. Yeah, this is going to be a big return on investment for Microsoft and Obsidian. So great results for Grounded, it's looking like. Elias saying, "Hi, Benji. I wasn't in the know that Xbox is asking for gold to play free-to-play games like Fortnite, etc. Meanwhile, PlayStation 4 and Nintendo never did. What do you think? If Xbox removes gold completely, not only for free-to-play games, do you think Sony 100% has to follow? Plus is making billions annually, so I don't see why Sony has to follow the competing strategy. Thoughts?" Great question, Elias. Had a feeling we would go into Xbox Live Gold pretty early on. So there's a rumor floating around from Jeff Grubb, who I respect and admire a ton. Jeff Grubb has become the insider of the summer, if you will. Shout out to Jeff Grubb. He's been putting in a ton of work over the last few months. And there's been some mixed some mixed interpretations of what he was saying. He was talking about how, Xbox Live Gold's going away, but I think, I could be wrong here, but I think the later interpretation was that he was commenting specifically on free-to-play games, that's going to go away, not necessarily saying completely gold's going away. However, we do also know, as we've touched on a previous live chat, that Microsoft has disabled the ability to buy far out versions of Xbox Live Gold, like such as a year of Xbox Live Gold was taken down. You couldn't buy it. I am not sure if that's gone back up, but at least at one point you could not. You could only buy like 3-month intervals. So there was also a sign there that something's going on. Here's my thoughts on it. I think in regards to free-to-play games, they 100% should remove that barrier. There's no reason that Xbox Live Gold should be there, especially like you said, when the competition does not require it. I just don't see the point. I don't see why you would have that with free-to-play games. So I would say at the very least, removing that would be a good move, and I think that is going to happen. I have a feeling at the very least that's going to. In regards to, is Xbox Live Gold going to go away completely? 100%. Zero Xbox Live Gold. I find this harder to believe, to be honest with you. It could happen. However, Microsoft makes a freaking ton of money off of Xbox Live Gold. As you note, Elias, Sony makes a ton of money off of PlayStation Plus. We're talking over years, billions of dollars. That's a risky thing to throw away. On the one hand, you get amazing goodwill from consumers, right? If Microsoft goes out there and they say, Xbox Live Gold's gone. You play multiplayer completely for free across the board. The subscription's now Game Pass. If you want to play, in terms of like them getting revenue from subscription still, their primary way of doing it specifically through Game Pass, it's going to earn them a ton of goodwill, but you also run the risk that Game Pass potentially never gets as big as Xbox Live Gold. So are you gambling that you could lose money in the long run that you could be getting off of Gold? It's risky. I wouldn't say it's impossible that they do that, but it's a gamble. It's a huge gamble. If they do that, they must be very confident that they can get Game Pass into tens and tens of millions of subscribers. They're already over 10 million, but we're talking about if they feel comfortable completely getting rid of Gold, they're going to need to be up into the 30s, 40s, 50 millions of Game Pass subscribers eventually. Obviously not tomorrow, but at some point they need to be very confident that they're going to get Game Pass really high in subs. So it could happen, Elias. Right now, I'm not going to go all in on Gold going away, though. In regards to if they do, does Sony have to respond? I think the answer to that is no, personally. Mostly because Sony is so successful on their own in general. Sony's the market leader right now. They have just so much goodwill from their first party games, from so much. I don't think at the very least at first they would have to respond. Maybe long term that would become an issue if we're talking 3, 4, 5 years down the line. If we start seeing Xbox gain major momentum, then they may have to. But I would say in the short term, Elias, no, Sony would not have to just instantly announce, well, no, PlayStation 5 is not going to have, PlayStation Plus anymore in terms of what you have to pay for multiplayer. I don't think so, Elias. I think Sony would stay on track and keep paying for online. So at least in the short term, maybe if you see Xbox start blowing up, they would respond. Costas. Hi, Benji. Do you think that the 120 to 170 million unit prediction for the PS5 is accurate? Do they know something we don't? Costas, no. I think that prediction was wildly, wildly off, to be honest with you. Not saying that PlayStation 5 can't sell 120 million eventually. I believe this came out of DigiTrends. I didn't read the full article, so I'm not sure who they're quoting here. But basically what they said, if I'm remembering correctly, was they said that whoever that provided this quote was that PlayStation 5 was expected to ship, and I think this might have even been from Sony, 120 million units in 5 years. That would be on a pace far above PlayStation 4. Far. It would have to basically be doing PlayStation 4's peak year every year to get there. So, Costas, that seems like a wildly optimistic prediction to me. If that really truly is what Sony is expecting, I think they may be over forecasting. I hope they're not too far in on that prediction because things could easily not go that way. They could. This isn't one of those scenarios where it's impossible, right? Like, oh, there's just zero chance they can ship that many that quickly. It can be done. It's just, wow. It would mean the PlayStation 5, to do it in the short time frame they're saying, would be wildly more popular to a degree. We're not talking double the popularity of PlayStation 4, but significantly more popular than PlayStation 4. That just doesn't seem realistic to me unless they really think emerging markets are going to blow up. For example, if they think that PlayStation 5 might be able to make inroads in China, a market that as of now is not strong in consoles, but maybe they think, hey, in 3 years, we're going to do really well in China or markets like this. then it becomes a little bit more believable. But if they're predicting this mostly off of just the main markets we have right now, Costas, I'd be shocked if they hit that number that fast. I'd be very surprised. It would mean the PS5 is an utterly incredible success because the PS4 is already an incredible success. So to be even more successful than that, it would mean Sony is on fire. And then a follow-up question here from Costas. When do you expect to hear the next PlayStation 5 info? All of the rumors are pointing soon, the next couple weeks for the August state of play. Within the next, I would say, 2 weeks or so, because we're basically on August 1st. It's the 31st right now. So tomorrow, August starts. I would say in the next 2-ish weeks, Costas, I expect to hear PlayStation 5 info. I expect you're going to get a release date. I expect you're going to get the price, and I expect you're going to get the pre-order announcement on whenever that's going to go down. So yeah, Costas, the next 2 weeks or so. And I think it's going to be a lot of info, not a little bit, a lot. Kieran Buckley. Hi, Benji. How well do you think Spider-Man Miles Morales will perform in sales? Is it an easy 10 plus million seller? Yes, it will 100% sell over 10 million. Spider-Man PlayStation 4 is already going to be significantly, I mean, it already is significantly above that. And it's going to be like long-term, potentially 20 million, depends on if this gets enhanced for PlayStation 5, for example, if it does. So yeah, 10 million is easy, especially because this is being built as like kind of the big launch title for the PlayStation 5. So for that hardcore Sony fan base, whenever you buy a PS5, you're going to be picking up Miles Morales too. So 10 million Kyrian is easy. It's going to do that zero problem. It's not even going to be hard for it to hit 10 million. Split End 89. How about them Ghost of Tsushima stats? Yeah, so for anyone that saw, PlayStation just released a ton of stats for Ghost of Tsushima. I'm not going to list them all here, but if you just look at the PlayStation Twitter, they've put a bunch up. We already know that Ghost of Tsushima did 2.4 million plus sales in 3 days. It's going to have amazing legs. It's going to do incredible long term. It's going to be a 10 plus million seller, in my opinion. So yeah, shout out to Sucker Punch Productions and PlayStation because Ghost of Tsushima is on fire, doing amazing. Sean Torres, do you think Animal Crossing reached 20 million as of June 30th? So yeah, we have Nintendo's financial report coming out on August 6th. So just next week, we're going to get a ton of updates on the Nintendo million sellers list, on hardware. Sean Torres, 20 million shipped. Yes, 100%. It shipped 20 million, potentially even far above 20 million. In terms of sell-through, that might be a little harder. It's hard to know because right now Nintendo doesn't report digital to anyone, right? No one. NPD does not have digital for Nintendo. Some of the charts that come out of Europe do not include Nintendo digital. So all that we've seen is the physical performance for Animal Crossing in all of these charts the last couple months. So we're missing a huge chunk of the picture. Digital has grown substantially even for Nintendo. So sell-through is a little bit harder to figure because you just have zero data on it at all. But yeah, shipped, Sean, it will 100% be above 20 million. And I think it could be even quite a bit. I think it could be 21, 22. None of those numbers would surprise me for Animal Crossing, considering how much of a juggernaut it's been this year. Benji, do you expect less gameplay reveals after the Halo Infinite backlash? No, Benji, I think that was more of a kind of exception to the rule. Most of the time people like to see gameplay. For example, look at how good the state of play did for Ghost of Tsushima's marketing. Ghost of Tsushima, had a lot of interest before that big gameplay reveal. But I remember when the state of play happened, at the time, that was the most watched state of play ever whenever they did that Ghost of Tsushima one. And I think that really helped in its hype to launch. I think that did really, really well for Ghost of Tsushima. So Benji, no, I think most people still want to see gameplay. I think Halo Infinite was a bit of an exception because it didn't meet people's expectations, specifically in terms of visuals. I haven't seen very many complaints about Halo Infinite in regards to how it plays. Of course, there's going to be some people that watch that just don't like it, but the vast majority of what I've read online is people are excited to play Halo Infinite, that at least were interested in it in the first place. The main issue is people just feel visually it didn't live up to what they wanted. So I don't think it means you're going to see less and less gameplay reveals specifically because of that. I just think, Halo Infinite wasn't exactly what people expected, especially being the showcase at the Series X event. I think that's really what hurt it too. This was the game. It got the longest amount of time at the Xbox showcase. It was the flagship game. I think people were expecting to be floored, myself included. Whenever, we were leading into that, I was expecting this is the Series X game. They're going to push this to the limits. It's going to look amazing. And then when we saw it, it did not deliver that. So I wouldn't, if I was a developer, think all of a sudden, oh no, we can't show gameplay now because people might freak out like that Halo Infinite demo. I wouldn't feel that way. I think it's more just specifically on this game. Elias asking if I think that Sony will reveal the price of the PlayStation 5 in the next state of play. Yes, either at that state of play or right around that state of play. It's going to be very, very soon. We're too close to launch now. I would be utterly shocked if either Sony or Microsoft wait until September. I mean, it could be done, but I think that would be a mistake, Elias. I expect to hear the price of the PlayStation 5 as well as the Xbox Series X and Xbox Lockhart in August. I think you're going to hear all of that this coming month. And I think you're going to be able to pre-order it too. Joni. Hey, Benji, do you ever think about starting a Discord server? I feel like it'd be a fun place to talk and share gaming news with the community. Joni, I actually just ran an experiment, or Joannie, sorry, whichever way it's pronounced. I actually just ran an experiment on this. Really, it was like maybe last month. It wasn't long ago. I threw the idea out there. The amount of interest I got was overwhelming. We're talking hundreds of people, literally hundreds of people DM'd me asking to join the Discord server. I started setting it up. I had like a very few amount of people in there, and it just was kind of overwhelming. So I just don't have the time really to really dedicate to a Discord. I know you can get mods in there to help clean things up and get it running. So Joni or Joannie, I'm not opposed to eventually doing a Discord server, but right now between my YouTube, my Twitter, I work a normal job, pretty much 40 hours or close to 40 hours a week. I have a 2-year-old at home. I just have so much on my plate right now that as of now, I'm not going to do the Discord server just because I don't have the time to put attention on it. And I would feel bad if I had a Discord server with like hundreds of people in it and I'm posting very rarely. It would just feel not right to me. So maybe one day we'll get that going. But as of now, I'm holding off on the Discord server. Best way to interact is just going to be Twitter or on here. Biotheun, how are The Last of Us 2 legs? Decent, but not great. I'll be honest with you. Not great. Not terrible. Not amazing either. The Last of Us Part 2 is more front-loaded than some of the other PlayStation Studios games we've seen. For example, I'll just tell you, it's not showing the kind of legs that Spider-Man PS4 had, for example. Now, I don't think that's hugely shocking because it was also the fastest selling PlayStation Studios game of all time. In fact, it broke that record by a lot. It really shattered Spider-Man's record for launch for the opening 3 days. So it being a little bit more front heavy is also not surprising to me because it shattered that record. So a lot of people were getting in on day one. A lot of people knew there were spoilers floating around out there. So even if they weren't spoiled, they wanted to quickly get in on this game so they could avoid those spoilers. So I would say I would not rank The Last of Us Part 2's legs as great. but it's not like a disaster either where it's just completely bombed. It's just been, an amazing start and then okay legs afterwards. Costas, how would you rank the top 5 biggest system sellers from the Microsoft show? This is a fun question, but Costas, it's actually kind of a difficult question because we saw, my main complaint with the Xbox showcase, for anyone that's watched any of my footage on that or follow me on Twitter, was that frankly, we did not see enough of almost any of these games besides Halo. So it makes it kind of hard to rank a system seller because a lot of these we almost know nothing about. So it's hard to sell a console when it's just basically a CG trailer with a logo on it. But if I were to rank them, number one's got to be Halo. Even with all the issues people have on it, Halo still is doing great metrics on social media. In fact, the Halo Infinite demo is currently the second most watched video ever in history on the Halo YouTube channel. Did really big views on there. Big views on the main Xbox channel. It was by far the highest viewed game of the show. So even with all of the controversy, number one, without a doubt, Halo Infinite is the system selling game potentially at that show as of now. Number two, I'm going to say Fable, but that's not, again, once we get after number one, I'll be frank with you, it's murky waters because these games are just nebulous. We don't know when they're coming out. We don't know what they are, but I'm going to go Fable because it's an established brand. In terms of the first party games, it is the second most viewed game on YouTube from that showcase. Stalker 2 is higher, but Stalker 2 isn't first party. And I think Stalker 2 will be big in Europe, but I think Fable has a chance to be big kind of everywhere. So I would say Fable. Avowed, I would put number 3 because think about how big Skyrim is. This looks like Obsidian's chance to be a Skyrim game. If this is really good, if Avowed is like a Skyrim caliber, people love it type game, it could be bigger than Fable. But we just don't know anything about it yet. So I'm going to put Avowed at number 3. Or 4, I guess, because I'm going to put Stalker 2 in there too. So somewhere around there, and then Forza Motorsport rounding out the top 5. Forza isn't a gigantic system seller, especially mainline Forza. Forza Horizon has become actually bigger than mainline Forza. But that's how I would do my top 5. But to be honest, Costas, it's really all about the number 1. The other 4, we just don't know near enough information about them. Nowhere near. And I mean, those games could be 2022. So who knows? Elias, what do you think about a $400 PS5 full digital and a $450 normal PS5? Remembering that both consoles are in the same specs, so digital only PS5 and $400 is a winning thought. I think they're going to go a little crazy, and I think I'm going to be honest with you, I'm expecting PlayStation 5 with the disc tray to be $500. My expectation is $499, and I think that they are going to do the digital edition at $400. And I know people are going to say, hey, but the disk drive does not cost $100. Correct, it does not. But you entice people in for the lower price point, and you are ensuring the person that buys that is only going to buy digital. They're never going to be able to buy a disc because you can't put the disc in there. And Sony makes a lot more money off of digital games than they do physical games because there's no retailer cut. There's no production costs for the games and the cases. It's directly through the PlayStation Store. They get a bigger cut, and there's no production costs. So you're going to get back more money than what you're sacrificing up front in the long term by enticing people with that digital edition. This could be wildly off. Neither one of these prices could be accurate. But Elias, that is my expectation. I think you're going to have a $500 with a disc PlayStation 5 and a $400 digital. Oh, we have a couple super chats. Let me hit these super chats really quick, and then I will come up to the next question. But I want to hit these super chats. We got $2 from Timor72299. Keep up the great work. You too, Timor. Keep pumping out awesome stats and great stuff over there on Twitter. Thank you so much. And Split End 89. So good to see Split End back moderating the chat. Good to see you, Split End. With an interesting question too here from Split End. Has Microsoft lost all of the steam they built since the Game Awards? Ooh, this is interesting and a little spicy. This is a spicy one. Let me grab a drink really quick and then I'll answer you. Okay. So Split End 89. I'm going to say no, they haven't lost all of their steam, but they have lost some. I do think so, Split End. If you remember back, remember when Microsoft showed the Series X, unexpectedly, by the way, at the Game Awards? We saw Hellblade 2, which in my opinion might still be the best looking next-gen game we've seen. Now, that comes with a lot of caveats. We don't know the exact details of what exactly we were looking at. We know it's in engine, but we don't technically know if the gameplay is going to look like that. We just know it was in engine trailer. But regardless, Hellblade 2 looked amazing. Suddenly, Microsoft out of nowhere shows the actual console itself, which I think no one was expecting. Momentum felt high. It felt really, really strong on that. Then you had two events that were met very mixed, very mixed. You had in May the kind of third-party showcase, which was mostly AA games, and not a lot was shown. And then you had the big July showcase, which had, I think, exciting announcements. But again, we saw almost nothing about those games. So Split End, I would say they haven't lost all the steam, but they have lost some, yes. We know they're going to have another event here in August. I think it needs to be good. I think it needs to look really, really good, whatever they show in August. The rumor is that's more hardware focused. For example, that it's going to have, the Lockhart reveal and things like that. So I don't know what all is going to be there in August, but it needs to look good because they have lost a little momentum, I think. And Your Chaos with a super chat. Thank you so much, Your Chaos, with a nice little 1-up sticker. Thank you so much. Thank you so, so much. All right, I'm going to scroll back up to these questions. Samad, hey, Benji, did you check out Fall Guys, which is coming on PS Plus free games this month? I think this game is going to make it big. Also, do you have PS Plus and do you see any value in it? Samad, I do have PlayStation Plus. I'm a subscriber. I've seen Fall Guys blowing up on social media and online. I'll be honest, I have not checked out gameplay for that game yet. But what I'll say is I have seen a ton of momentum on social media. It's crazy. I see it popping up all over my Twitter feed. I see people on forums talking about it. I think this could be very big. I agree with you, especially launching onto PlayStation Plus. We saw how big that was for Rocket League. Now, not every game that has launched on PlayStation Plus is an instant giant success. I think there was a game, if I'm remembering correctly, called Disc Jam that launched on Plus that never really blew up. So it's not a guarantee, but this one I'm noticing just some crazy online discussion. So I agree with you. I think Fall Guys has some real potential to take off from what I'm seeing at least. Benji, there's some rumors about DLSS 2.0 for the next-gen Switch. Could this technology help Nintendo be competitive next gen? It's possible. I wouldn't be shocked if DLSS 2.0 is in the next Switch. For anyone that hasn't checked out what that technology does, Digital Foundry just did a great video on this. They just did it. It'll be in their recent videos list. So if you click on it, they did it with Death Stranding as an example. Basically, DLSS in some cases actually even is better than native 4K, and it uses way less resources. So in other words, you can tax the hardware less and still make games look absolutely amazing and run at really good frame rates. So Benji, I think that this sort of technology, DLSS 2.0, and the other versions or similar type technologies out there, I think they're going to be big not only for Switch, but also other next-gen platforms. I think the future is really going to benefit from this. So yes, Benji, I would not be shocked at all if you see this in next gen Switch. And I think it's going to be a big deal. I think it's going to be a very big deal moving forward because keep in mind, This technology is already showing fantastic results, and it's fairly new. It's not been around for all that long. So just imagine 5 years of innovation and work on this. Imagine what these types of technologies will be like 5 years from now. So Benji, yeah, I think it's going to be a very big deal. Very, very big. Pierre 485. Hey Benji, thanks for the live chat as usual. Of course, love doing them. I have a few questions. All right, we got a couple here from Pierre. One, how is Paper Mario and Ghost of Tsushima tracking in the US? Paper Mario is going to surprise people, I think. I think it's going to do very, very, very well from what I'm seeing with Paper Mario. I'm expecting it to be the biggest launch ever for the Paper Mario franchise in the US, and actually quite a bit better than what people expect. Now, keep in mind, Paper Mario on NPD is going to have 0 digital included. So whatever number you see, whatever placing you see, keep in mind you're missing a big chunk of data there. But Paper Mario is looking really good. I think it's going to surprise people how well it's doing. Ghost of Tsushima, I've kind of commented on this. Physical sales are not as high as I was expecting, but that's actually basically because the game is selling out insane. It's having big physical shortages. It also is having big physical shortages in Japan. So it's not even just the US market. In other markets, I think this game has been more successful than Sony anticipated. Not me. You know, anyone that watches my YouTube channel, I got asked before the game came out, and I said my expectation was over 2 million units for Ghost of Tsushima in its launch. And that's what it did 2.4. So I was not surprised by that. I even commented on Twitter and on YouTube that I thought it had a shot of beating Horizon Zero Dawn for the biggest new IP launch, which did happen. Not gonna always pat myself on the back, but I am gonna pat myself on the back on that one. So I was not surprised by this at all, but I think Sony was. I think Sony wasn't expecting quite as high of results on Ghost of Tsushima as they got. So it is having some pretty big physical shortages, but I think that's going to get made up by digital. I'm expecting Ghost of Tsushima to have a gigantic digital split in the US. Second question here from Pierre. What's your prediction for the fiscal report hardware and software? Switch, I think, is going to be close to 5 million, right around there, I would think. I think it's going to be pretty close. It might be a bit under 5, but I think it's going to be in that range. Let's say 4.5 to 5 million-ish, right around there. I think it's going to be pretty strong. So that would be my expectation for hardware. Software, I would say, you know, like I mentioned earlier, Animal Crossing well over 20 million possibly shipped. Sell through, I don't know, but I think it could get up into 21, 22 million territory on shipped. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Xenoblade will be part of this report. It'll be interesting to see if that hits 1 million. I don't think that's impossible, but I also don't think it's a complete lock because Xenoblade did well, but it didn't do like unbelievably well. Most markets we've seen, it looks like it launched lower overall than Xenoblade 2. So I think 1 million's possible depending on how digital split is, but not a shoe-in. And then, you know, just continued amazing evergreen legs, you know, actually up from this time last year over year. I think games like Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart, Mario Odyssey, I think all of these games shipped more this quarter than the same quarter last year because you saw Switch just have so much momentum that I think you're going to see a lot of these evergreens really boosted from new people getting in on Switch. So all of those big tentpole evergreens up year over year in the same quarter. And then the last one here from Pierre. Nintendo's schedule slate is blank. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. There's like literally nothing announced for Switch except for like some third parties and indies, but like mainline Nintendo, we don't know. What do you think Nintendo is planning to release this holiday? Pierre, I have no idea. There was all those rumors about the Mario games, which we have not seen come to fruition yet. We have not seen any updates at all in regards to those Mario rumors. So I don't know. Maybe it's those Mario games. I don't think Zelda. I am not expecting the Breath of the Wild sequel this year. I think that is firmly going to be next year. I think it might not be next holiday. It might be earlier than that. Remember, the original Breath of the Wild launched with Switch in March. So Zelda doesn't have to be a holiday game. It was a gigantic success in March with the Switch. So they could launch that before next holiday, but I don't think it's this year. I think that is next year. And I don't think they're going to have like Metroid or anything like that. So Pierre, as a guess, I think those Mario games are really the only thing in play. Maybe some Wii U ports. There's not many of those left, but maybe they have something like that up their sleeve as well. But that's going to be my guess, those Mario remakes. Gaming Addict saying, what's up? What is up, Gaming Addict? Elias saying that they were visiting the Game Awards 2019 facts and questions, and the cutoff was November 15th. Cyberpunk will release on November 19th. If that game doesn't make the cutoff, the game of the year could be secure for The Last of Us. Elias, I think that is not going to be the case because I think they are going to move it. That is right. Cyberpunk's too big. It's too big for them to not include it. I know that there's been cases in the past where a game that seemed too big wasn't included. For example, Smash Brothers. Keely's not going to have the cutoff before Cyberpunk. He's just not. I can almost 1,000% guarantee you, Elias, the cutoff will not be for Cyberpunk. It'll be after that, especially because keep in mind, this is a different year, Elias. We don't know when these next-gen consoles are launching. If the Xbox and the PlayStation aren't launching until after November 19th, you're going to need those launch games, or else what is the Game Awards even about if you're not going to have the launch titles for next gen included, right? You need to have those as potential candidates. So, Cyberpunk is going to be eligible. I can basically guarantee you that. Biathuan, do you think Lockhart may sell more than the Series S you put, but I think you mean Series X, with free multiplayer Game Pass and a low price? It's possible. For example, we saw the regular Xbox One outsell the Xbox One X when they came out, but all of the marketing is around Series X. Biathuan, I'm going to guess, or Biothuan, sorry, your name's kind of hard to pronounce. I'm going to say Series X does lead in sales over Series S because I think that's going to be Microsoft's marketing focus. I think even once the Series S or Lockhart or whatever it's called is announced, I think people are still going to really be excited about that, all the bells and whistles consoles. But I think Series S will be big as well. So I would say Series X bigger, Series S less, but not significantly so. I think it'll be a closer split. For example, we've seen like between the regular Xbox One and the Xbox One X, the Xbox One, the regular one, outsells the X by quite a bit. It's a pretty big chunk. Xbox One X did help Xbox One sales, but it wasn't like a huge chunk. Same thing with the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro. I think you could see a pretty close split, maybe 55-45 between the X and the S, or 60-40. Not a huge difference, I think. Could be pretty comparable between them. Samuel Tolbert. Hey, Benji, obviously Xbox is finding success on Steam. If Horizon Zero Dawn is extremely successful on Steam, do you think it could influence how quickly Sony ports bigger titles in the future? This is a great question, Samuel. Great question. So let's really quick talk about Xbox on Steam. They're doing straight up amazing. Like, they're actually becoming one of the premier publishers on Steam. Just yesterday, 3 of the top 4 best-selling games on Steam were all Microsoft published. Like, that's staggering. Like, that's from one publisher. They had 3 out of 4. They had Grounded, Flight Simulator, and Sea of Thieves, all in the top 4 best-selling games on Steam. That's crazy. Like, there's no real way to spin that negatively. You just can't. Like, it's very, very strong result. So the question is, What happens if Sony starts seeing some success like this? Keep in mind, Horizon Zero Dawn has stayed in those top like 15 best-selling games on Steam basically since it went up for pre-order. It's been in like that top 15 range. And in fact, when it first went up, it was number 1. I think Horizon Zero Dawn is going to be huge on Steam, a multi-million selling game. So what happens when Sony gets a little taste of that? Samuel, what I'll say is Sony is still more about selling consoles than Microsoft is. Don't get me wrong, Microsoft wants to sell next-gen Xboxes too, but Sony is like really all about that. Microsoft's strategy is switching to where, yes, they want you to buy a console, but they don't really care if you play on PC or eventually on xCloud. Sony is still very much about generations. They're very much about, hey, buy a PlayStation 5. So Samuel, what I'll say is I don't know that you'll necessarily see them port their bigger titles quicker, but I think you will see more. I really doubt that Horizon's the last. I'm expecting eventually you're going to see God of War. Eventually you might see Spider-Man. Sony's strategy, in my opinion, is going to be wait 3 years, 2 years on most of these games, and then eventually put some of them on Steam. The only exception, I would say, Samuel, is you might see multiplayer specific stuff on PC first. They already kind of hinted at that before, that they would be open to multiplayer projects on PC. So I wouldn't be shocked if you see the multiplayer stuff pretty quick. For example, maybe this Last of Us multiplayer game that appears to be in development. Wouldn't be shocked if you see that on PC and PS5, like maybe even day one together. But Horizon Forbidden West and games like this, I would not expect that very quickly. I think that's going to be a pretty long wait, a solid 3 or more years wait. Samad with a really kind comment here. Want to remind you that you are doing a great job and we all love your insights. Keep doing what you are doing and ignore the haters. You're the only reason I have Twitter on my phone, literally. That is incredibly humbling. That I cannot tell you enough how much that means to me. Thank you. Thank you so much. There's a small amount of haters. I've learned that. It's not worth giving them the attention because it's a very small number in the grand scheme of things. Just like anything in life, negativity stands out more sometimes than optimism, right? So it's like you can read 100 nice comments, but then you read that one that's like really mean, and man, it just can stab you sometimes. But then it's like you got to think like, hey, there's 99 other people that are incredibly nice. So thank you, Samad. That means the world to me, truly. And you're spot on in that. Just ignore them. It's not worth the effort. Sampo, will Microsoft announce studio acquisitions at the August event? I don't know how to pronounce their name, which I should, but you're saying Asobo. I think that's their name. Anyways, the developer of Flight Simulator. I don't know if they will announce acquisitions, but I think they should if it's available by that studio. I keep in mind, a lot of these studios need to agree to be purchased, right? Like you can do hostile takeovers, especially if a company's public, not if it's private. If it's a privately owned company, you have to agree to terms. There is such thing as a hostile takeover on publicly traded companies. It's still really hard to do, but you have to have studios agree. So if Asobo, for example, does not want to be bought, and Microsoft may not be able to buy them, but if they're up for it, I do think it's a good idea. They've proven themselves to be a good developer. Flight Simulator looks amazing. I think that would be a great acquisition for Microsoft, but they have to agree as well. So we'll see. Kieran, do you think Luigi's Mansion 3 could get to 10 million copies? It's already at 6.33 million in just 5 months. Yes, Kieran, I think it's possible. I think it's definitely possible. Like you said, over 6 million in 5 months. We've seen Switch games in general have just amazing legs. That game still has a long life ahead of it. We're not going to see a Luigi's Mansion 4 for who knows how long. I mean, that could be very far down the road. So, yeah, I think it's entirely possible. It's a 10 plus million seller. I think it's very possible. How long have we been going? 50 minutes? All right, I might have to be slightly more selective on some of the questions just because we're getting close to an hour. We usually go for about an hour and 15. So I'm still going to hit a ton of questions. Don't worry. But if I pass over a specific one, sorry about that. I'm trying to pull out just the most interesting ones to break down since we're starting to get a little low on time. Ooh, here's actually a good one from Benji. We see huge success for Microsoft on PC. Sony seems to do well with Death Stranding and Horizon soon. Any chance Nintendo goes on PC? Benji, I would say that's very far away. It could happen. I'm not going to rule that out entirely. We're living in crazy times. The industry is rapidly shifting, but Nintendo specifically is so hardware dependent and so ecosystem dependent for, you know what I mean? Like buying into a Nintendo console to play Nintendo games. Like they are like, that is their entire business model, basically. They have mobile, but to be honest, mobile has not been the success they wanted it to be. It just hasn't been. They've had some successes, for example, Fire Emblem, but in general, mobile just never took off the way I think Nintendo was hoping it would. PC could happen, but it's going to be very far away, I think, Benji. I would not expect that anytime soon. Not anytime soon at all. You'll see way more PlayStation games, like PlayStation getting more comfortable with PC before you see Nintendo, for example, put Mario and Zelda on PC. I wouldn't anticipate that for a very long time. BitCloud saying, what's up? What is up, BitCloud? Costas, do you think The Last of Us 2 will beat Spider-Man? No. Long term, no. I don't. It doesn't appear to be having the kind of legs Spider-Man did. So, Costas, I'm going to say no. Still going to be huge. Still going to sell way over 10 million units. But nope, I don't think it's going to beat Spidey. I just don't. I really don't. Slash Games. If the multiplayer in Infinite is really free, as rumors suggest, how do you think this in Game Pass will impact sales of the single player campaign? Yes, that is a interesting question. If it's really free to play, and like you said, you can get Infinite on Game Pass, right? We already know that at least. I'm going to be honest with you, Slash Games. I think you're going to see a gigantic decline in unit sales for Halo Infinite. Now, keep the context in mind, because I can see someone pulling that clip of me saying that out and possibly try and twist it into me saying, oh, Halo Infinite's going to bomb. No. But if you can get multiplayer free to play, that's already a chunk of the market that buys Halo just for multiplayer. There is, though, of course, also a giant chunk of the market that plays Halo for single player, but that's in Game Pass. So you now have two free ways of accessing Halo. You have the Game Pass for free, or you have the multiplayer for free if you don't care about the single player and you just want to play competitive online. Suddenly, paying $60 to own it seems very questionable to me. I will just straight up tell you, I will not be buying it. I will be playing it on Game Pass, which isn't the end of the world. Microsoft's trying to grow Game Pass. Their long-term strategy for the Xbox division is Game Pass. Long-term, the next 10 years, it's all about Game Pass as a platform. If you looked at this Xbox showcase, it was just as much about Game Pass, or maybe even more about Game Pass than it was about Series X. How often did you see them talking about Game Pass? So, yeah, it could really hurt sales, but that's not the end of the world. If it hurts sales, but Game Pass sees a giant growth in subscriptions, it's probably worth it to Microsoft. So it could it really could impact sales. Red Hood asking if I think PS5 will only last 5 years if a Pro model isn't released. And isn't 5 years a bit too short and give devs enough time to produce games for it, especially from first party? Yeah, 5 years seems unrealistic to me, especially now that games take 3, 4, even sometimes 5 years to make. we're already in this gen seeing some developers only able to get out 1, maybe 2 games a gen. Now, there's some that have gone way above and beyond that, but we have seen companies like, for example, Rockstar. All they had was Red Dead 2. They had Grand Theft Auto 5, but it was just an enhanced version of the 360 and the PS3 game. Like, the only fully new, brand new game for this generation from them was Red Dead. So, yeah, 5 years seems too short to me. I'd be shocked if next gen only lasts 5 years before the gen after that starts. I'd be very surprised. That seems short considering how long development cycles are. That was Split End asking something about Halo that I just answered. Yep. Gruppenzach saying, hey, Benji, greetings from Austria. Greetings to Austria. That is amazing. Saying, love my content. Thank you. Thank you so much. Greetings to Austria. One of my favorite parts of these chat is seeing people from all over the world jumping in. It's amazing to me. It's super, super amazing. JCat. I heard Jeff Grubb on a recent podcast, and he said gold was completely going away. He said most of those people would spend money on MTX and subscribe to Game Pass. Ooh, interesting. So Grubb is saying it's not just free to play, it's gold completely. Woo! That's a big move. If Microsoft comes out and announces that at their August event, it is a power play. It will be interesting to see the next couple of years how that plays out. JCat, thanks for the expanded information. If that is true, if gold is completely gone, that is going to be interesting to watch. That's going to make some stuff really exciting. Really, really, really exciting. All right, I'm going to scroll to the bottom really quick. I can always come back up, y'all, but I want to hit some of the questions that came in late. Let's see. Oh, we have a super chat. Let me hit that super chat really quick. Mark Heath, thank you so much for the super chat saying, could we see changes to digital refund policies? I would hope so, Mark. I want to see a lot more consumer pro-consumer moves in the digital space, especially as the industry moves to really primarily digital. We're already over the tipping point. So if you look at all of the recent publishers, if you look at EA, if you look at Take-Two, if you look at Sony and PlayStation themselves, they're all over 15 or 50% digital on their console games alone. And this is before next gen, where we're going to have digital only consoles available at launch. So next gen, I mean, we're going to be up into the 60s and eventually the 70s for digital shares. As the market moves to digital, I do want to see way more pro-consumer things. I really do. You know, that's one big difference right now is with a physical game, you can still resell it, right? Granted, the resale market's not as strong as it was, let's say, in the 360 days, but you still can. Like, you can take your disc. If you're done with the game, you don't want to play it, you can take it and trade it into GameStop or sell it somewhere else. You know, there's all kinds of things that you can do. I want to see digital get more pro-consumer. So we're already seeing some steps that way slightly, right? You're already seeing some return policies improving. Steam, for example, has improved their refund policy over what it used to be. So we are moving that direction, but we need to see more of it. Yeah, we definitely need to, especially as the industry moves that way. We got a super chat here, another one dropping in from Timor. Thank you so much. Timor saying, thoughts on EA's interest in WB games per VG247 and recent reports? Yes. So we already had kind of heard that EA was one of the players interested in WB. We've heard EA, we've heard Microsoft, we've heard Activision. EA basically confirmed it. They said that they were very interested as ever, they said, in acquisitions, including large ones. That was basically them giving a wink and a nod to the WB rumors. I have two thoughts about this, Timor. First of all, it reinforces the reports that were originally up that, you know, WB Games is for sale. The fact that EA basically confirmed this without outright saying the name WB, it means that it is being shopped. Like, it's not just a rumor, it is being shopped around. So, A, That's my first thought is, yep, there is definitely some fire to this smoke with WB. And then secondly, I'll be honest, EA is not the company I hope to see get WB. I just don't know that EA would handle those studios the best. On one hand, it's good for people that want WB games to remain multi-platform. For example, if Microsoft buys them, you can pretty much guarantee that their games are just going to be Xbox and PC. So if you're just a PlayStation owner, you're not going to more than likely be able to access those studios' games. At the same time, I'm just going to be honest, EA has not had the best history with how they treat their studios. I'm not trying to be mean, but we have ample evidence over the years. Now, I've heard from a lot of people that EA is actually a pretty good place to work. I've heard that from many developers. Many developers have told me that they like actually working under EA. But in terms of specifically how the studios are ran, it's questionable. It's a questionable history. So it does make me worry. Maybe they can change. Maybe they can improve how those things work. But I'll tell you, Timur, EA wouldn't be my first choice. In fact, my first choice would be Microsoft. If I could have anyone, I know that's going to upset some PlayStation fans, but Microsoft seems to be mostly letting their studios kind of have a lot of freedom. That's at least what the teams are saying. So I think that they might be the best candidate, but I also think they might not want to spend that kind of money. I think EA is a very strong front runner, to be honest. I could easily see EA buying WB. Very, 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 very easily. Wouldn't shock me at all. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to look for a few more questions since we're down to like the last 15 minutes here. Brett here saying, is it just me or is it a little scary that Asobo are the devs behind Flight Sim, considering none of their previous games even resemble flying, let alone simulation? I would say that if we hadn't already had extensive hands-on feedback, as well as people in closed beta saying that it is amazing. So if we hadn't heard anything, if we'd never seen the game, if it was just announced and we hadn't seen the absolutely insane looking visuals, by the way, I would say yes. But considering like everything that's coming out is unbelievably glowing on it, I wouldn't be worried. It's sounding like it is really, really good. So like I said, if we didn't have any info, yes, but we already have enough to kind of know it's going to be good. Highlander, if Microsoft paid $2.5 billion for just Minecraft, then they would give $6 billion for WB with Batman, and AT&T is looking for 4.5. Highlander, it depends. I think Microsoft's willing to go big on spending for WB if they got the rights. However, it's unclear if WB would have any interest in giving the rights. So to be clear here, it would be specifically just the gaming rights. Obviously, if Microsoft bought the WB division and let's just say a deal was worked out where Batman went with it, it wouldn't be Batman period as an IP. It would be the gaming. They would just have the rights to the games for Batman. I would say Microsoft would pay a lot. If they could guarantee that they got the IP rights, Batman, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, yeah, I think they could get a big number for that. But it seems unclear that WB is going to include any of that. It seems like it might be just the studios. And if it is just the studios, you do lose a lot of value. Don't get me wrong. There's some very good teams there. You've got Rocksteady, who are amazing. You've got NetherRealm that are amazing. You've got Monolith Studios, who are very, very good. You have a lot of teams there, but it's really about that IP. So Highlander, they won't go too high if they don't get any IP with it. Just depends. It completely depends on how that deal gets worked out. Agent McQueen saying this dude works out. I do work out. Yep, I work out a lot. Thank you. I appreciate you for noticing, but I do. Yes, I lift a lot of weights. A lot of weights get lifted in this house. We got some actually right down there. We got some 35-pound, some 45-pound dumbbells right there. So, yeah, I do a lot of lifting. Thank you. All right. Are we about done? We got a couple more questions left. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Drop me with some hot questions. Give me some good questions right on the bottom. We got 5 to 10 minutes. I want some really good ones. Give me some good ones. All right. No questions? Split end just with a final shout out. Hard to believe we're most likely 3 months away from the console launches. Yeah, we're there. That's what I mean. Price is about to be announced. Price and pre-orders. We're too close. Too close. It's right around the corner, y'all. Before you know it, we are going to have Series X or PlayStation 5s in our households. We're there. We are really there. JCat, thoughts on the sub 2,000 PS4 sales in Japan last week? Yeah, it's drying up. I believe part of it is Sony has had shortages. I am less well-versed on Japan than some other markets, but I have improved a lot. I am better at understanding the Japanese market than I used to. But it's not great. And I'll tell you, it's slowing down in the US as well. Still doing good, but not as quite as good as it was early in the year. We're really close to next gen. Like, we're really close now. So a lot of people are going to start holding off now that we're this close within months to PlayStation 5. Ooh, here's a good one dropping in right at the end. Vertical 21, do you think the recent accusations on Ubisoft could impact their sales and stock values? With some of the major creatives leaving, do you think it could make their games more diverse in the future? This is a really good question. Really, really good. So here's what I will say. I don't think necessarily it's going to hurt their sales, because keep in mind, your average consumer doesn't know anything about this. Just your complete average Joe, your average person walking down the street who just buys Assassin's Creed, or just buys Far Cry. They literally don't know any of this. Like, they just don't know. This type of thing isn't the kind of thing that breaks out into the non-hardcore gaming circles. So I think specifically sales, no. In terms of stock, I'm going to say no, unless Yves, the CEO, somehow gets involved here in a very bad way. As of now, the most poor accusations seem to be that he may have mostly ignored some of the things that were going on there, which in and of itself is inexcusable, right? That I'm not giving Yves a cop-out here. It's not good. It is not good at all if that is true, that he was aware of some of this and was just ignoring it. That's not okay. But what I mean is, he himself isn't part of the scandals that have been going on and the abuse that's been going on with some of Ubisoft. If he somehow got tied into that, though, yeah, that could really impact stock. If it became a situation where Yves staying on seemed questionable, yeah, that sort of thing absolutely could affect it. But as of now, I'm going to say stock and sales more than likely won't be hurt too bad. Portal Player, how do you think Ghost of Tsushima is holding up in sales? Excellent. It's going to sell over 10 million units. So yeah, very, very good legs. All right. We got one really quick MMA question from Benji. Justin Gaethje or Khabib? Ooh, Benji, this is tough. Khabib tragically lost his father to COVID-19. It's devastating to learn. Khabib was so close with his father. It was his coach. It was his father. It was his best friend. how is that going to impact him in training for this fight and motivation for this fight? Is it going to make him more motivated, or is it going to hurt his career? We saw other fighters where an important death hurt them. Mike Tyson, for example, after his trainer died, he was a radically different person, and Tyson saw his trainer as a father figure. And when he passed, it really affected Mike Tyson. How's Khabib going to look? I'm going to pick Khabib. Justin's looked great lately, but we haven't seen Justin beat an elite guy the way that Khabib has. Yes, Justin dominated Tony Ferguson, but he really caught Tony Ferguson slipping. Tony Ferguson has had questionable striking defense for a very long time. He gets away with it a bit because of his aggression and some of the tricky stuff he does, but he really caught, it was really all about capitalizing on Tony Ferguson's just poor striking defense. I think Khabib's going to be smarter, more cerebral. I think it's going to be a tough fight, but I pick Khabib. All right, we have one super chat here I'm going to hit from Timor, and then we're going to call it a chat, everyone. This is it. This is the last question here from Timor with multiple super chats. Timor, you are too kind. You are amazingly kind. Thank you so much, Timor. I mean, seriously, this is you don't have to be this kind. Thank you so much. Thoughts on Gearbox potentially going public? Not sure if you've been asked this before. I've not, Timor. It's interesting. I think it potentially makes sense. It could be good for them in the long run. I think Gearbox is a company that's been, I'll be honest with you, somewhat questionable in terms of success recently. Don't get me wrong, they have had some big successes as well. You've seen things like Borderlands do amazing, but you have seen some projects not do so great. I think going public could help raise a lot of capital for them. I think it could be good for them in the long run. I'll be honest, I'm also kind of surprised that Bethesda is still completely private as well. Timor, I think Gearbox going public is probably a good move. This kind of thing, you never know for sure until it happens, really. It could wildly swing either way. But Timor, I'm going to put it as a good thing for the company. Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be a good move in the end, but it'll be interesting to see if this goes through or not. There's some rumblings about it. I'm going to say good move for now, and we'll see how it goes. I think part of this might be due to, again, having some successes, but even even with Borderlands, that's with Take-Two as well, and I don't know. They haven't had a great run recently, so I mean, it's one way to raise some money is to get some investors, right? I mean, that's one way to raise some money, get people invested in your company. So I think it might have a bit to do with that. All right, everyone, I'm going to call that a chat. Thanks, everybody who has jumped in. Again, we're close to 2,000 subscribers here. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. My goal is to hit 2,000 subscribers by my birthday, which is later on in August. So spread the word if you can. Share the channel. Let your friends know that are into video games to come check it out. Thanks, everyone who hopped into the chat today. Appreciate it if you hit the like button. If not, no big deal. I will see you on Twitter. Or I will see you on YouTube in the next video. Thanks so much, everyone, and be safe, play some games, and I will see you all soon. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you next time. Bye.